Amina felt like she was floating on air when Samuel got down on one knee and asked her to marry him. Her heart raced, and for a moment, she believed everything in her life had finally fallen into place. But that happiness was crushed in an instant. Samuel's mother, Mama Chisomo, stood there with a cold smile and said words that cut deeper than any knife. Amina was not good enough to marry her son. Amina's cheeks burned with embarrassment, and tears welled up in her eyes as the room seemed to shrink around her. She could feel the judgment in every glance, the weight of someone else deciding her worth. For a moment she wanted to disappear, to run away from the humiliation. But deep inside, a tiny spark of defiance began to glow. That sharp sting of rejection didn't break her. It awakened something stronger. She realized that her life, her dreams, and her happiness didn't have to be approved by anyone else. In that painful, unforgettable moment, Amina promised herself she would rise above the cruelty, and that one day, she would show Mama Chisomo that she was worth more than anyone had dared to imagine. Amina wandered through the busy streets of Lilongwe, her tears mixing with the dust and sun of the city. Every laugh, every shout from the market felt like it was meant to remind her of the humiliation she had faced. She clutched her bag tightly, trying to hold herself together, but inside, her heart ached with confusion and sadness. How could love, something so pure, be questioned just because she came from a simple family? She had always dreamed of being happy, of building a life full of love and respect, but now it felt like the world was closing in on her. People passed by, busy with their own lives, unaware of the storm inside her. Amina's mind replayed the cruel words of Mama Chisomo again and again, and each repetition made the pain sharper. Yet, amid the heartbreak, a tiny voice inside her whispered that this was not the end. She realized that her worth wasn't defined by someone else's pride or prejudice. She could let this moment crush her, or she could use it as fuel to rise higher than she had ever imagined. By the time the sun began to set over the city, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, Amina felt a small but fierce determination growing inside her. She promised herself she wouldn't just survive this humiliation. She would turn it into strength. She would dream bigger, work harder, and prove that love and respect cannot be dictated by someone else's narrow judgment. Every step she took back to her apartment that evening carried a new resolve. The heartbreak was heavy, but it was also planting the first seeds of a future that no one, not even Mama Chisomo, could ever take away from her. Amina knew deep down that this pain would one day become the reason she would shine brighter than anyone had ever expected. Amina sat on the small bench outside her apartment, her head in her hands, replaying the painful words of Mama Chisomo over and over. The city noise of Lilongwe felt distant, like it belonged to another world. Her heart was heavy, and every step forward seemed impossible. That's when her phone buzzed. It was Nthabising, her oldest friend, the one who always knew exactly what to say. Amina hesitated but answered, her voice trembling. "Talk to me," Nthabising said gently, sensing the storm behind Amina's silence. And so Amina poured out everything, the proposal, the humiliation, the feeling that she had suddenly become invisible in her own life. She expected sympathy, maybe a few comforting words. But instead, Nthabising's voice came firm and steady. "Amina, listen to me. Don't let anyone else decide your worth. Not Samuel, not his mother, not anyone. You are stronger than you know, and this isn't the end of your story. It's the beginning of something bigger." Those words hit Amina in a way nothing else had. It was like a spark lighting a fire inside her chest, warm and powerful. Suddenly the embarrassment, the tears, the heaviness, they didn't feel like chains anymore. They felt like fuel. She realized that the humiliation she had endured wasn't a mark of defeat. It was a challenge, a call to rise. Nthabising's words reminded her that strength isn't about never being hurt. It's about standing up again, even when the world doubts you. Amina sat there for a long time, letting the message sink in. Her mind started to race, not with fear but with possibilities. What if she could prove, not to Mama Chisomo but to herself, that she was unstoppable? What if this heartbreak could become the very thing that pushed her toward her dreams? A quiet determination grew in her, soft at first but steadily gaining power. She promised herself that she wouldn't just survive this moment. She would turn it into her own story of triumph. The fire Nthabising had lit inside her was now BU.
Fjaller himmelke roast betses op zich bescheid derve. Jan ilirve. Was no last dirve. Macht hij schroff waffer nummer was a wit. Netter bekel offering al one saper maar van de schele mich. Sepper was nest doing er was lafish. Heel erg merom. Stieren met de wind dat serven is namer van die show. Vaden wat ziet in usterpa. Schneesch de snijke blor was een ime. Snem om admer. Nee, zie best was ze wat hij schee with her hangit so de kapserish no masline. Throw no hangit uit. Flasser hangin schok al los snips dash. Hedel en mich was sort of jaar for sure was laffen ime. Al bepaats na of beefskim opstat. Sterk op ne last zich dan. Waarom zit de wessie? Hering het mas vahui. Sturf bij fucking het ime der vat. Snemstash zis let no wine ab na for die bezui for we share with. Net the way off with the wit. So exercise a wit. Sea en sheen immersed de. Spur work now hipster gewies de kifu. En as je wil of net loop sharp for ze there. En I know we're dat nurse stay ook binnen. Ieder elk. Snish de last net de whoopsies. En as share bat zich ja handig. En as she is everybody Lenny Mitchell we set. Color was er that no last is aan ik er van net. Net of mag. Bra showy. Has nami fuckers. Haar kommer van het is ik as get er ja. Vader zit dat waar zeggen. Ja no. Said when no working to be the wit beer in a shaffer. Heard I sir that no one Fuck keeps it there from zone. Say now in roads near Psifa that ill sich. Her off it after and a vigor vet and a win it in their own full of big so wish at last her turf net. Heard off grow. Her giving it the turn ship. Holy for me you be all in more fear they scare bra. Says no lash need work net snell that. Sketched off from the flusser his will. Her ass nailed me better at sketched lamp said I girl were her nature net her hot or off when
Amina walked into the bustling conference hall in Blantyre, the room buzzing with professionals, innovators, and dreamers from across Africa. She had prepared meticulously for her presentation, but she couldn't shake a nervous flutter in her stomach. This was a big moment for her career, and she wanted everything to be perfect. As she set up her laptop, a familiar voice greeted her warmly. It was Kofi Mensah. She had only seen him in passing before, but now standing face to face, she felt an unexpected spark, something beyond admiration for her work. Kofi's presence was magnetic. He didn't just notice her talent. He seemed genuinely interested in her thoughts, her ideas, and her perspective on innovation. They talked first professionally, exchanging insights on technology and business strategies, but soon the conversation flowed effortlessly into laughter, stories of their journeys, and dreams for the future. Amina felt seen in a way she hadn't felt in a long time. For the first time since the heartbreak in Lilongwe, she felt that life could hold surprises that were bigger, brighter, and kinder than she had imagined. Throughout the day, they kept running into each other, during panels, at coffee breaks, and even in the hallway between sessions. Each encounter felt natural, as if the universe had placed them in the same space for a reason. Kofi's respect and genuine interest weren't just flattering, they were empowering. Amina realized that her life didn't have to be limited by past judgments or the narrow views of others. This meeting reminded her that doors could open when she least expected, and sometimes, the people who enter your life can change everything. By the end of the conference, Amina walked away with more than just business contacts. She carried a renewed sense of possibility and hope, a reminder that life had more to offer than pain and rejection. In Kofi, she saw not only a mentor and ally but a kindred spirit who recognized her worth without hesitation. Samuel couldn't stop talking about his plans to his mother, Mama Chisomo, as if nothing had changed. He spoke of weddings, venues, and guests, thinking he was exciting her with his dreams. But Mama Chisomo only smirked, her pride filling every corner of the room. She still believed that Amina's humble background was a mark against her, that no matter what she achieved, she could never be on the same level as Samuel's family. To her, Amina was just a girl from a modest family, someone meant to be kept in her place. Even as Samuel rattled off plans and ideas, Mama Chisomo's thoughts were elsewhere, full of judgment and disdain. She whispered to herself, mocking Amina silently, her small apartment, her simple family, her quiet ways. In Mama Chisomo's mind, these things were chains, meant to hold Amina down forever. She didn't see the fire that Amina had started within herself, the courage and determination that were growing stronger every day. All she could see was what she wanted to believe, a girl she could dismiss and control. When Samuel mentioned Amina's name, Mama Chisomo rolled her eyes and laughed lightly, thinking it harmless. She had no idea that the humiliation she had delivered months ago had only fueled Amina's resolve. She had underestimated her completely. Mama Chisomo didn't notice how Amina's small victories, her growing career, and her newfound confidence were shaping her into someone unstoppable. Every mocking thought, every sneer, was actually feeding the fire that would one day burn so brightly it would be impossible to ignore. In her arrogance, Mama Chisomo believed she had the power to define Amina's life. She thought she could keep her down with words and pride. But the world doesn't always follow the wishes of those blinded by status or ego. While she reveled in her imagined control, Amina was quietly building a life of strength, success, and dignity, one that would soon challenge every judgment Mama Chisomo had ever made. The blind pride that. Amina sat in her small apartment one evening, the city lights of Blantyre twinkling through the window, and felt a quiet but powerful shift inside her. For months, she had carried the weight of Mama Chisomo's harsh words, the humiliation of being told she was not good enough. She had felt hurt, small, and powerless. But now, something inside her refused to be crushed any longer. She realized she didn't need anyone's approval. Not Samuel's, not his mother's, not anyone's. She was done begging to be seen or accepted. Her life was hers to claim. In that moment, Amina made a decision that changed everything. She would rise above the humiliation, not by arguing, pleading, or proving herself to anyone, but by living her life fully, boldly, and on her own terms. She would work harder, dream bigger, and create a life so full of success, confidence, and joy that no one could ignore it. Every late night at the office, every idea she pitched, every challenge she overcame would be a quiet but powerful statement of her worth. She didn't want revenge. She wanted victory, not over anyone else, but over the doubt that had tried to define her. Amina began to imagine her future in vivid detail. Her career thriving, her creativity recognized, her independence shining. She pictured herself walking through life with confidence, turning heads not because she had to, but because she embodied her true potential. The humiliation she had felt became a catalyst, a fuel for the fire that now burned brightly inside her. With each passing day, she carried herself differently, taller, prouder, unstoppable. Every small achievement added to her strength. Every compliment or recognition reminded her that she was enough. She no longer waited for approval. She created it herself. That decision to shine wasn't just about proving Mama Chisomo wrong. It was about reclaiming her own life, her dreams, and her dignity. Amina knew that by focusing on her own growth, success, and happiness, she would become. Over the next few months, Amina's life began to change in ways she had only dreamed of before. She threw herself into her work, taking on bigger projects, speaking up in meetings, and showing a confidence that turned heads wherever she went. Her colleagues started to notice not just her talent, but the quiet strength that seemed to radiate from her. She smiled more, walked taller, and carried herself with a presence that commanded respect. Every achievement, big or small, added to her growing sense of self-worth. But Amina's transformation wasn't just about her career. She began to embrace her own sense of style, blending modern elegance with the rich traditions of her African heritage. She discovered the beauty of colorful, patterned fabrics and the power of clothing that spoke of both pride and sophistication. Each outfit became a statement, a reflection of the woman she was becoming: strong, successful, and unapologetically herself. From carefully chosen head wraps to flowing gowns adorned with intricate designs, her wardrobe told the story of her journey, her culture, and her rising confidence. Friends and colleagues started to notice the change. They admired not only her talent but the way she carried herself, the way she seemed to glow with purpose. It wasn't just about looking successful. It was about feeling it, living it, and inspiring others with her presence. Amina's growth became undeniable, and even those who had doubted her in the past began to pause, to take notice. Through it all, Amina never forgot why she had started this journey. Every step, every late night, every new opportunity was a part of a larger goal: to prove first to herself, and then to the world, that she was worthy, capable, and unstoppable. Her transformation became more than a change in appearance. It became a symbol of triumph. She had turned pain into power, judgment into inspiration, and rejection into a life filled with confidence, pride, and undeniable success. In every way, Amina never imagined that a simple afternoon could turn into one of the most unforgettable moments of her life. Kofi had invited her to a quiet rooftop restaurant in Blantyre, overlooking the city as the sun dipped below the horizon. The golden light reflected off the buildings, casting a warm glow over everything, but nothing compared to the way Amina felt in that moment, nervous, excited, and hopeful all at once. They had laughed over shared stories, discussed dreams, and enjoyed the easy comfort of each other's company. And then Kofi took her hand, his eyes steady and full of sincerity. "Amina," he began softly, "I have watched you rise. I have seen your strength, your courage, your brilliance. I admire you not because of what anyone else thinks, but because of who you are. I want to walk with you through life, not above you, not beside anyone's expectations, but together." Amina's heart skipped a beat as he knelt and revealed a simple yet elegant ring. "Will you marry me?" In that quiet, intimate moment, Amina felt a wave of emotions crash over her. She remembered the pain of rejection, the harsh words of Mama Chisomo, and the heartbreak she had carried. But now she also felt the warmth of being seen, truly seen, for the woman she had worked so hard to become. This proposal wasn't about approval or status. It was about love, respect, and partnership. Kofi was offering her his heart, his trust, and his unwavering belief in her, and she realized that she had found someone who valued her in every way that truly mattered. Tears welled up in her eyes, but they were tears of joy and relief. She said yes, her voice trembling, and Kofi slipped the ring onto her finger with care. In that single perfect moment, Amina felt whole. She had chosen a partner who celebrated her strength, cherished her dreams, and loved her unconditionally. For the first time since the heartbreak, she felt completely certain. She was stepping into a future built on respect, love, and mutual ADM. The news of Amina's engagement reached Mama Chisomo through quiet whispers and passing comments, but she barely paid attention. In her mind, it was nothing to worry about. Just a small ceremony, maybe a quiet wedding with a modest man who had managed to notice her somehow. She scoffed at the idea that Amina, with her humble background and quiet demeanor, could ever truly shine on such a grand stage. To Mama Chisomo, the girl she had once dismissed would never be more than a footnote in their family story. Meanwhile, Amina and Kofi were busy turning their dreams into reality. Every detail of the wedding was carefully planned. The venue overlooking Lilongwe's sparkling city lights, the music that blended tradition with modern elegance, and the flowers that seemed to capture every shade of hope and joy. Invitations were sent to friends, family, and colleagues, each one a silent declaration that Amina's life had changed, that her journey had led her to something extraordinary. Amina spent hours selecting her attire, choosing fabrics that honored her heritage while reflecting her modern, confident self. The wedding dress wasn't just a piece of clothing, it was a statement. Each bead, each pattern, each fold of fabric represented her journey, her resilience, and her triumph over the doubts and insults of the past. She wanted to feel powerful, radiant, and proud as she stepped into this new chapter of her life. As the preparations continued, Mama Chisomo remained unaware of the magnitude of what was about to happen. She laughed to herself, thinking Amina's wedding would be ordinary, that nothing could outshine the family's legacy. Little did she know that Amina wasn't just preparing a wedding. She was preparing to step onto a stage where her success, confidence, and dignity would shine brighter than anyone could imagine. The woman she had tried to belittle was about to prove that strength and grace could turn a small life into an unforgettable story of triumph, and that the morning of the wedding in Lilongwe felt electric, as if the city itself was holding its breath for what was about to happen. The streets buzzed with excitement, flowers decorated every corner, and the air smelled sweet with the scent of fresh blooms. Inside the bridal suite, Amina stood in front of the mirror, taking in the transformation she had worked so hard for. Her African traditional attire was breathtaking, richly patterned fabrics in vibrant colors, delicate beadwork that caught the sunlight, and a design that blended elegance with pride. She felt every inch of herself radiating confidence, beauty, and strength. As she stepped out, the eyes of every guest were drawn to her. Whispers of admiration spread through the crowd. Amina moved with a grace that seemed effortless, each step carrying the weight of her journey, the heartbreak, the hard work, the determination to rise above it all. Her smile was serene but powerful, a quiet declaration that she had arrived, not as someone who needed approval, but as a woman who had earned her place in the world through her own courage and talent. Mama Chisomo stood near the back, her face a mixture of shock and disbelief. She had imagined a small, humble ceremony, but instead, she saw Amina commanding the room without a word. The pride that had once blinded her now revealed the truth she had refused to see. Amina was unstoppable, radiant, and admired by everyone present. Every bead, every fold of fabric, every confident step was a message Mama Chisomo could not ignore. As the ceremony began, Amina felt a rush of emotion, not for the past hurt, but for the triumph she now embodied. This was her moment of glory, a day where she stood tall, celebrated, and unafraid. Friends, family, and colleagues watched in awe as she embraced the love she deserved. The woman who had been told she wasn't good enough now shone brighter than anyone could have predicted, proving that true beauty, strength, and dignity are earned from within. The moment had finally arrived. Amina stood at the end of the aisle, her heart pounding with a mixture of excitement, pride, and quiet triumph. Every detail of the day, the flowers, the music, the sunlight streaming through the windows, felt like it had been arranged just for this moment. She took Kofi's hand, feeling the warmth and strength of his support, and together they began to walk forward. With each step, Amina felt the weight of her past lift, replaced by the undeniable power of her present. Guests turned their heads, drawn by her elegance and confidence. She moved with a grace that seemed effortless, her traditional African attire flowing beautifully around her, a perfect blend of culture and modern sophistication. The beadwork shimmered subtly with each step, reflecting not just the sunlight but the journey she had taken to reach this moment. Whispers of admiration floated through the crowd. People were captivated, not just by her beauty, but by the aura of strength and self-assurance that surrounded her. Mama Chisomo stood frozen, her eyes wide with disbelief. She had imagined Amina small, timid, unsure of herself, easily forgotten. But now she could only watch as the woman she had tried to humiliate became the center of attention, admired and respected by everyone present. Every step Amina took was a quiet but powerful statement. She had risen above the hurt, the judgment, and the doubt. She was no longer defined by anyone else's opinion. She defined herself. As they reached the altar, Amina lifted her gaze, meeting Kofi's eyes. In that look she saw love, respect, and partnership. She felt a surge of gratitude for the journey that had brought her here. The heartbreak, the struggle, and the determination to shine. Walking down the aisle was more than a ritual. It was a declaration. Amina had transformed pain into power, rejection into triumph, and humiliation into grace. Every eye on her saw not just a bride, but a woman who had fought, endured, and rise. Samuel sat among the wedding guests, his hands clenched tightly in his lap as he watched the ceremony unfold. The grand hall was filled with laughter, music, and the warm glow of celebration, but all he could see was Amina, radiant and confident, walking down the aisle with Kofi. Every smile she gave, every graceful step she took, was a reminder of the love and respect she had found, something he had never truly given her. A pang of regret twisted in his chest, sharp and painful. He realized too late what he had lost. He remembered the moment he had listened to his mother, Mama Chisomo, when she declared Amina not good enough. At the time he had let pride and fear cloud his heart, believing status and appearances mattered more than kindness, courage, and love. Now, seeing Amina surrounded by friends, colleagues, and family who admired her, he understood the truth. Love wasn't about control, wealth, or approval from others. It was about respect, support, and the way two people uplifted each other. Kofi's gentle guidance, sincere words, and unwavering admiration for Amina showed him what he had failed to offer. Samuel's chest tightened as he watched Amina laugh with Kofi, her eyes sparkling with happiness, her confidence shining like a beacon. Every gesture spoke of the life she had chosen, a life full of dignity, partnership, and joy. He realized that no amount of pride or insistence could have forced her to stay. She had risen above the heartbreak he had caused, and she had built a life that reflected her worth, something he had ignored for far too long. For the first time, Samuel felt the sting of true loss. It wasn't just that Amina was gone from his life. It was that she had shown him the depth of love he had failed to understand. Watching her now, he couldn't deny it. She was unstoppable, admired, and loved in ways he could never provide. In that moment of quiet regret, Samuel learned a painful but necessary truth. Love is earned through heart, character, and the wedding wasn't just a celebration of love. It became a celebration of strength, resilience, and empowerment. From the moment Amina and Kofi exchanged their vows, the atmosphere was electric, filled with admiration and inspiration. Guests couldn't stop talking about Amina, not just her beauty or her elegance, but the way she carried herself with confidence, pride, and dignity. Every smile, every gesture, every graceful step told the story of a woman who had faced humiliation, heartbreak, and doubt, and had risen above it all. Family, friends, and colleagues looked on, inspired by her journey. They saw how Amina had taken pain and turned it into power, how she had refused to let anyone else define her worth. Conversations buzzed around the room, people whispering and pointing, but with admiration, about the woman who had once been told she wasn't good enough and was now the center of a celebration that radiated joy and respect. Lilongwe seemed to shimmer that day, as if the city itself was recognizing Amina's triumph. It wasn't just a personal victory, it was a story that resonated with everyone present. Young women felt hope rise in their hearts, men realized the importance of respect and partnership, and even distant relatives who had doubted her quietly acknowledged her strength. Every dance, every toast, every cheer was a reminder that determination and dignity always have the power to change lives. Amina's wedding became more than a ceremony, it was a symbol. As the evening wore on, the music, laughter, and celebration continued late into the night. Guests left with stories to tell, inspired by the example of someone who had faced rejection, worked tirelessly, and emerged victorious. Newspapers, social media, and word of mouth soon carried Amina's story across Lilongwe and beyond, making her a symbol of empowerment for everyone who had ever been underestimated. On that day, she didn't just marry the love of her life, she married her dreams, her courage, and her. Flotsering vil murfsmacher wahburst en neverbeis. Fjaller for opbirvet et nederich ganimid at the didn't nurse the Fjaller at such underarm bail my fness nerf. My arsnet snail is there for my singivilla make you be fuck the fells anim. All the pots not netters our working archer with a honey minute. Thought nibby the rod a hero. Siege the opera feel loose to it. Ner the honey missirkness net of mach they will get the draw one. Fall in the shale and me so and it said no and every row him a was he shined up. Honey mission in middle ocean, geschwie lips no reish. Thirst the end during all one book. Snets it them finished out one was such the mum. Heard you snivit left fine shiny pa had them in what safe face no ash dear. Honey murf. Her than an only I've nagging a sealer snurfsmuck at gaps or vernacken. Throw her foul the life so more hard. Hard of a bizarre machine immersed in that soul garch. Care for a hot. Hurry, met our better dinners did them at the number read your vet. My arse day out was nets in it. Fallios, there were like a fellow in this net bad sea fucking anime.